Alright, so this is a video I've been thinking about for a while, and here I have 3 examples of the most popular types of DMR stocks out today. And I'm sure there are plenty of other ones, and I'm sure you guys are going to tell me down in the comments about your favorite one, and that's great, but from my experience and from what I have seen, these are the 3 that you typically see used on people's DMR type rifle setups. And by DMR, I mean designated marksman rifle, or a precision rifle style stock that is fitted for a gas gun, anything that can be used on any sort of AR style buffer tube. And so that's what we have here. These are probably the 3 most common that you see used on most people's builds today. And we're going to break these down by 5 different criteria. And I'm going to just give you my personal experience with these and my personal opinion on what is good and what are the pros and what are the cons of each of these. So the 5 criteria that we're breaking these down into is, number 1, length of pull adjustment. Each of these have some sort of way that you can adjust the length of pull. Each of these have a cheek riser. So all 3 of these precision rifle style stocks, you have to be able to get your eyeball lined up with the optic, and each of these provides some sort of cheek riser to be able to do that. Each of these has some sort of butt hook, so something that you can use the web of your hand, hook into the rifle, and pull that the butt stock to your shoulder. Each of these has some sort of usable butt hook. Each of these has some sort of bag rider, so the bottom of the stock here allowing the use of a traditional rear bag. So all 3 of these stocks have some sort of usable bag rider. And the last one obviously is going to be the cost. Each one of these 3 stocks comes in at a different price point. And so we're going to break down all 3 of these with those 5 criteria. So we'll start off with the least expensive, and that is the Mission First Tactical M.F.T utility stock. So I've had this stock for a long time. I've used it on many different things. This has been on my this lower for quite some time. You guys have seen it on with the 224 Valkyrie on it, with the 6.5 Grendel that's on it now. And I've used it many different things. I even used to have it on a chassis 300 Win Mag bolt action years ago. So we'll start off with cost. So for the Mission First Tactical M.F.T utility, first off, you do not, when you buy this stock, it does not come exactly like this. You have to buy this in 2 pieces. So first you buy the actual stock itself, and the cheek riser comes separate. So the stock itself is going to run around $70, and you can get the cheek riser for anywhere between $20 and $15, depending on. And you may find better deals on on all of this, but I'm just giving you guys the average prices. So for around $85, you can have this entire setup. Now, the length of pull adjustment. This has a very large length of pull adjustment because it is set up on a traditional AR style buffer tube with a 6-position adjustable length of pull. What it does not allow that the other 2 allow, though, is some sort of fine-tuning adjustment. So you only have those 6 positions, and you cannot fine-tune in between those to really dial in your length of pull. So that is one downfall of the length of pull adjustment, but it does allow you to adjust the length of pull. The cheek riser. This cheek riser on this has some really big benefits and some really big downfalls to it. So the benefit of this particular cheek riser is it has more total adjustment than any of these other stocks that we're going to look at today. This has 1¼ inch total adjustment in the cheek riser. So depending on what size rings you're running, if you're running some sort of scope riser or top rail riser or anything like that, this allows you to get everything you need out of your DMR rig or your bolt action rig. If you're running high rings or medium sized rings and a big scope, you can get enough adjustment out of this to pretty much line up anybody's eye with the optic. So that is a big benefit. The downfall of this cheek riser though is it's really flimsy. So compared to the rest of the examples here, this has by far the flimsiest cheek risers. You can actually see that here. So when you really put your cheek into it, and like I said, I've had this for a long time. I've got a lot of experience with this. When you really put your cheek into it, you really have the rifle braced against your shoulder, and you're really pushing forward with lots of forward pressure to load the bipod, you tend to push down on the cheek riser. So if you're up here towards the front of the cheek riser with your cheek, you're going to tend to push it down and have to readjust sometimes, or sometimes just completely misalign your eyeball with the optic. So that is the downfall of this cheek riser. So the butt hook on this. Now we will for all intents and purposes say that this is a butt hook. It has some sort, this particular bar right here gives you the ability to somewhat hook the web of your hand into it and pull it to your shoulder. It does not have any sort of actual hook to it, so it does not really give you the full use of a butt hook, but it does have something here that allows you to push it to your shoulder. And it is very thin and somewhat flimsy as well, so it's not extremely comfortable, especially in comparison to some of these other examples. It has a bag rider, albeit very short and very thin. So you do have something that you can align some sort of shooting bag under it. But the big problem there is that it's so thin that it can really cause some instability, especially if you do not have a completely stable position built. This can really cause you to have some wobble when you have this positioned on a rear bag. So that is the Mission First Tactical M-Bus utility stock. Those are my experiences with it, and this, like I said, is the cheapest on the table. So you got to weigh those cons of the Mission First Tactical with the price tag. Next up, we've got the Luth-AR. There are a few different types of the Luth-AR stock. You have the MBA-1, the MBA-3, and then you have the MBA-1 with the 3-axis butt pad. All three of those are different price points, and each one of those allows some sort of difference in the way you are able to use them. So we're going to actually, all I have here is the standard MBA-1. I actually have the three-axis butt pad on order right now, so I will be adding that to this eventually. But this is the standard MBA-1 Luth-AR stock. So the standard MBA-1 Luth-AR stock is going to cost you around $140. Like I said, that is just an average price, so you may find it cheaper than that if you find it on sale. If you want the MBA-1 with the 3-axis butt pad, you're looking at $155. And then the MBA-3, which has the 3-axis butt pad already installed, is around $159.95. And we're going to talk about all three of those models and the differences between them and what each one of them offers in ability and adjustability. So first off, the length of pull adjustment. This is the big difference between the MBA-1 and the MBA-3 is the length of pull. With the MBA-1, you have an extra long stock. This is longer than the MBA-3. The MBA-1 only attaches to a standard A2 style buffer tube. So because of that, it is a fixed stock. And then the length of pull adjustment for the MBA-1, you only have 1 1/16 total inch length of pull adjustment, and all of these with their rear length of pull adjustment in the Luth-AR stock have exactly 1 1/16 inch length of pull adjustment. The MBA-3 actually fits, instead of fitting on a standard A2 style buffer tube, it fits to a standard 6-position buffer tube. So you have the full range of adjustment of the 6-position stock, so you can adjust it as far out as you need to, and then you can also fine tune it within those 6 positions with your 1 1/16 inch adjustment for your length of pull. So the MBA 3, depending on what build you're doing, how your rifle is set up, I actually prefer the MBA 1, but I am 6 foot tall. This is pushed out almost all the way. I have very little adjustment left, and it is at my length of pull adjustment. So if you were much taller than 6 foot, or you happen to have a very long length of pull needed for your rifle setup, you may want to go with the MBA 3 because it allows you to get that extra length of pull adjustment. So we already talked about the cost. The cheek riser on this. This, in my opinion, is probably the best overall feel of any of the cheek risers on this table. Now, the cheek riser on this has 1 inch of total adjustment, so less than the Mission First Tactical stock. 1 inch is usually plenty to get you lined up with the scope. I have medium rings. This is a bolt action, so unlike a standard AR, the stock is not completely in line with the top rail, and it's still with that 1 inch, and I do have it all the way up, allows me to get a perfect sight picture with medium rings. So if you're running this on a gas gun with the buttstock in line with the rail, you're not going to need anywhere near as much of that adjustment. But this does have enough adjustment. If you were running high rings on this, it may actually be a little bit uncomfortable, and you may not have perfect alignment and have to kind of wiggle around and actually lift your head up and be somewhat uncomfortable. So the 1 inch is somewhat of a disadvantage in comparison to this, but it is much more sturdy than the Mission First Tactical. The butt hook on this by far, without a doubt, has the best butt hook of any of these on the table. It is extremely positive, extremely comfortable, very form-fitted to a person's hand. It allows you to really get the web of your hand in there on the butt hook and really get a positive grip and push the rifle back into your shoulder and really control the recoil. That is my favorite part about the Luth-ARs, is it just has a fantastic butt hook, probably a better butt hook than most of your chassis rifle stocks on the market today. And the bag rider. This bag rider is not exceptionally long. It is probably twice as long as the Mission First Tactical bag rider, but it is not extremely long. It is without a doubt long enough to have plenty of room to adjust your bag wherever you want and still control the butt hook. So it is a very good bag rider. And one of my favorite things about this bag rider is it is 90% flat with a slight dip. So if you are trying to adjust your elevation, get a fine-tuned elevation adjustment with your bag, this allows you to do that just by moving the bag either further forward or further back. So I really like that, and most of it is flat to allow straight back recoil. It is somewhat thin, much thicker than the Mission First bag rider, but it is still somewhat thin, so it can, if you do not have a completely positive position built, it can sometimes allow you to become somewhat unstable. So that is the Luth-AR MBA 1, MBA 3, and the 6-position butt, or the 3-position butt pad that you as an option for this. Last but not least is the one that's been around forever, and that is the Magpul PRS stock. Now this is I do believe this is the Gen 2 version. Obviously there is the Gen 1 and Gen 3. Gen 3, we'll discuss some of the differences in it. I actually, out of all three of the Magpul PRS stocks, prefer the Gen 2 version. mainly just because of the bag rider, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. This is also, guys, a rifle that you guys have not seen yet. We will have a full video discussing this rifle here in the near future. It's kind of a hodgepodge build so far of a AR-10. This is not the actual lower that this will find its home on, but at the moment it is the lower that we have it on. And this is a great rifle. I'm really happy with this so far, really happy with how it's all came together. And this was made possible in large part by one of my viewers. He knows who he is, and I can't thank him enough. I think I've told him thank you about 1,000,000 times, and I'm going to tell him again right now, thank you. So, the Magpul PRS stock here. So, the cost of the Magpul PRS stock, this is one of probably the biggest downfall of the Magpul PRS stock. I think it is probably the most aesthetically pleasing of any of these stocks, but you have to pay for those aesthetics, and some of the functionality is not actually in line, in my opinion, with the Luth-AR. So, this thing, a Gen 3 right now, will run you around $255. And like I said, that's an average price. You can find them cheaper if you shop around. I'm not sure. You could probably find a Gen 2 somewhat cheaper than that. It's still going to be well over $200 though. So, the hefty price tag for the Magpul PRS stock, but it does have a lot of functionality. So, the length of pull adjustment. This has, just like the Luth-AR, the Magpul, and there's only one option for mounting any of the Magpul PRS stocks, and that is an A2 style buffer tube. So it is a fixed stock. Once it's mounted, there is no 6-position adjustment, but it does have a 1.4 inch length of pull adjustment. So it actually gives you a little bit more adjustability as far as fine-tuning the length of pull than the standard MBA one. And 1.4 inches is more than enough for most people to find a perfect length of pull and find it very comfortable to lay behind. The cheek riser on this, I think the cheek riser of the PRS, the Magpul PRS stock, I find it personally uncomfortable, and on top of finding it uncomfortable, it only has 0.8 inches of total adjustment in this cheek riser. So that is less than the Luth-AR and far less than the Mission First Tactical. And because it only has 0.8 inches, it's really hard. Now, it is done all the time, and you will see lots of precision bolt action rifles set up with the Magpul PRS stock. But if you really pay attention, if somebody's running medium height rings or higher, typically they are not having their cheek weld pressed firmly onto the stock because they have to hold their head up somewhat, which is uncomfortable, which negates the whole purpose of stability in having that cheek riser. It does allow you to get closer to lining your eyeball up, and if you're running low rings, or if you're running this on a standard AR platform like this was initially meant for, it is absolutely no problem, because 0.8 inches is enough to do any adjustment needed on a standard AR platform where the stock is perfectly in line with the top rail. So, the butt hook on this. I do not like the butt hook on this, obviously, as much as I do the Luth-AR, but it has a very positive butt hook. It's somewhat minimalist, but it has enough of a hook there to absolutely allow you to get the web of your hand in the butt hook and really push it tight to your shoulder. And it is the width of this makes this very comfortable to use as a butt hook and still have plenty of your hand to control your vertical with the bag. The bag rider, as far as the bag rider goes on this, now this, like I said, is the Gen 2, I do believe. It may be a Gen 1, but I do believe this is the Gen 2. The Gen 2, if you'll notice, the bag rider is perfectly flat, which I would prefer over the Gen 3. The new Gen 3s have a slight taper all the way down the bag rider. That has some advantages, but it also has some big disadvantages. One of the big advantages is it allows you to control your vertical with your bag and really fine tune it by positioning your bag either forward or backwards of the butt hook, further and further forward or further backwards, and really fine tune the adjustment of your vertical with the just positioning your bag. But that angle on the Gen 3 does, where the place where that actually is a downfall is the fact that when the rifle recoils, you want the flatness of, this is all my personal opinion, but I like the bag rider to be perfectly flat to allow the rifle to recoil straight back and ride along the bag. I try to control recoil as much as possible, but in the cases that the recoil cannot be completely tamed, you want the rifle to recoil straight back. If it has that slight dip in it, when the rifle recoils back and slides on your bag, it actually allows the muzzle to come up. And that is one thing that I am not a fan of. I wish they would have left the straight bag rider, or done like Luth-AR did with a almost perfectly straight bag rider, but a slight dip up towards the front, so to still allow you to fine tune it if you need to. So that is the three types of DMR style rifle stocks on the market today, the three most popular. And like I said, I'm sure there are more out there that I am not aware of. I'm sure there are some that you guys prefer over all three on the table, but these are the three that I have had most experience with. These are the three that when I see people's builds, these are typically what they're using. Out of all three of these, I think it's probably obvious, I probably don't even have to say it, the Luth-AR is by far my favorite of all three of these. I think it allows the most adjustability out of all three of these stocks while still being completely functional. I have used the standard MDT stock that they have that you can buy with their chassis, and I actually find the Luth-AR stock more comfortable than the MDT stock that is like $400 that you can buy to add on to an MDT chassis. And that's why this is on my MDT chassis bolt action 7 SAUM rifle. Like I said, I really like this stock. The price point is right in the middle. It is nowhere near $200, but it is not $75 either. So if I was going to be in the market for one of these stocks, I would absolutely be going with some sort of Luth-AR MBA 1 or MBA 3, depending on my total needs. So this has been the comparison, pros and cons of the DMR stock shootout. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you guys next time. I'm out.